This podcast is made possible by the Alex Angard Firstman Foundation. Our mission is to provide education on how to work with and support people on the autism spectrum. Welcome to the third episode of the Alex AFF Action for Autism podcast. Joining Dr. Ann Leeson and I today is Alex's brother, Elliot, for our sibling episode.
So today we're going to talk about the experience of being a sibling of a child with autism. And every family's microsystem is different from the next. Each family has its own intimate relationships, resources, challenges, protective factors. So there's no one experience that can explain away everyone else's experience. But today we like to invite Elliot to share with us how he experienced being the sibling of his brother Alex, who has autism.
Yeah, so growing up with Alex was an adventure. Things could be challenging at times, but ultimately it was an incredibly rewarding, enriching experience because Alex reminded us every day what was important, and that was to be cared for and to be understood and to have your family.
That's beautiful. What's interesting, what you just said there is, most people think about, siblings of persons with autism as, living in the shadows, not getting attention. And what I'm hearing from you is that you found, yes, it might have been a little bit challenging, but it was also very rewarding. You had a lot of joy and a lot of opportunities for growth.
Yeah, and I think it changed the way I see the world because you're immediately put in a position where you have to have empathy for someone else's experience. And I think that's changed the way that I view other people who have challenges, whether they have autism or special needs or not. Uh, and yeah, it's incredible, to have a sibling go through that. And, you find ways to bond that might be different from other siblings, but you find, moments of connection that are more enduring and beautiful than you would expect.
I love that you say that because one of the things that comes up in literature quite a bit is this difficulty with communication between siblings. And you're finding out that, there's different ways of communicating, different ways of hearing someone's story and being with somebody that's very unique to being a sibling of a person with
hmm
autism.
Yeah, and I think that the way that they understand you and the way that it's particularly Alex perceived you is how you treated him. And he was very perceptive that how you understood him and treated him. It was true for anyone. If someone was dismissive or not empathetic, he noticed. And then his family, who cared for him and supported him, he really looked to them for that support. So, like one instance, I remember I was at my parents' house, and Alex was a voracious eater, and I remember one time in the middle of the night, he went into my bedroom when I was sleeping at like 1 a.m. and then he just opened the door, came in, and was like, "Elliot, I want pasta with meat sauce." And I was like, "Okay, I guess, sure." So I went downstairs and made him some, but it kind of made me think that Alex almost viewed me as like another parent because that's something that he would do with my mom and dad is he would look to them. And the fact that he just felt so comfortable to do that and knew that, yeah, I was probably going to get up and make him pasta with meat sauce, it meant a lot to me.
So, Elliot, you always included your friends with Alex and Alex with your friends. There's a particular time, and you could tell the story, my favorite story about Halloween.
Yeah. So Alex moved to a different school when he was, I think, like in middle school. And one of the things, the school was great in many ways. So one of the things they didn't have that Alex really missed out on was a Halloween party. They didn't do one, but his old school did. So he was upset that they weren't going to have one. So what I decided to do is invite some of my friends over and have a Halloween party for him. And my friends dressed up and we made, you know, treats and, listen to Halloween songs. And it was like this moment that Alex just kind of realized that we weren't going to let him, miss out on things, that he loved.
I think more importantly, your friends, they got to know him so well that they were comfortable with them and he was
Yeah.
comfortable with
Yeah.
them. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty special. I would talk to some of my friends. They had kids with autism, and they would talk about their kids and their different relationships with their friends. And I would say, you know what, our kids have a maturity that people their age don't understand, just because of what you
Yeah.
just explained.
Yeah. Yeah.
Siblings do tend to have much more empathy, as you were talking about, and they tend to grow up much more mature. And one of the protective factors that's relevant that you're talking about here is inclusion. I mean, listening to how you included Alex with your friends and you adjusted, your Halloween party to meet his needs as well. It's that piece of inclusion that makes you like reflect back on your memories rather than thinking back to, with remorse what you missed out on. I mean, you've got beautiful memories that
Yeah.
of all the really cool ways that Alex made your Halloween party very, very unique.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was different at times. I mean, did I sometimes listen to other of my friends and memories that they had with their siblings of playing sports together or bonding over the same hobbies? Sure. Yeah. I mean, that is a very different experience. But I think the important thing is you can't compare the experience because you're you are bonding in a way that is meaningful to him and also to you. And kind of that's really what matters.
Yeah, beautiful reciprocity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have as much to grow as he does to grow from his relationship with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. So I'm curious, you seem like you've always been very naturally involved in your brother's life. Where did that come from?
So I think where it came from was that my parents really never hid what was going on in Alex's life. I think that they were always talking about how we were going to deal with different challenges and how we were going to approach making sure that he got the support he needed, which made me naturally just more involved because I was hearing this and having these conversations. And so you kind of feel a little bit of ownership over Alex's situation because it's not a thing that's being hidden from you. It's not a thing that's kind of not talked about or off in the corner. It's the thing that we all have to deal with.
I remember Elliot asking me, I think you were young. Well, we're going to talk about our brothers and what should I share about Alex? And I said, you know what, Elliot, you share what you feel like you want to share. I mean, that is totally up to you. So I don't know if that helps with your, you're never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was definitely nothing that we shied away from as a
No.
family that
Yeah.
about Alex. It was definitely nothing that we ever said we weren't going to talk about with. We talked about it a lot with people.
Yeah.
Now, but I do think that, you are generally a little bit guarded because you don't know how people are going to react, especially when you're younger and you're like, I don't know, 10, 12 years old, how your friends are going to react or how they're going to talk about, your brother. So you're naturally a little bit guarded. And I don't know, I think sometimes my friends talk about now that I grew up with saying, you didn't talk a lot about Alex when you were younger, but then as you got older, you kind of open up more about him. And I think that's not that I was ashamed or anything. I think it's just you don't know how people are going to react.
Right. Because I think when you start, everyone wants to be accepted and you
Right.
don't know. Yeah.
But that is another protective factor. You guys have this open communication. Nothing was ever hidden in your family, and you knew a lot about autism. And there is that apprehension sharing that with others. There's that social stigma of having, a family member with autism. I could see that apprehension, but it sounds like everybody embraced Alex.
Well, I was very involved in the school. Everyone knew Alex, whether you talked about him or not. I mean, he was a different grade, but, everybody knew it.
Yeah. And I mean, there were times where you know, everyone would have their 2 cents about autism. And there are also times when, people would say, oh, I knew someone who had autism and did this. And to a certain point when you're growing up, you kind of like don't want to hear it because you're like, yeah, but you don't really understand, like, you don't know Alex, like, you don't understand our experience.
That's not our experience.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're definitely like a little bit protective. You're very protective of him. You're weary that sometimes people are going to approach him from a sense of empathy, and then sometimes people are just going to talk, and then you just kind of, you're like, well, this isn't really helpful or anything.
Well, I love that you're able to talk with such great empathy for your brother. I mean, that in and of itself, it shares. I don't know who's watching this podcast, but there's a lot of assumptions out there that people who are siblings of individuals with autism are really struggling. They're invisible. They don't feel like they're ever heard. They feel like they're overshadowed. And what I'm hearing here is that your relationship with your brother brought you so much joy and growth as a human being, empathy. I mean, things that we could only wish to have in our own skill set as a human being. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think, though, you have to have parents who exude that as well because, you learn from example and, you see that the way that your parents act in certain situations and you kind of learn the same. So, I mean, if my parents were, not talking about Alex and kind of making it seem like a thing that we didn't want to deal with. And I mean, I would have grown up very differently, so I don't think just having a sibling with special needs gives you that sense of empathy. I think it's how you watch other people approach it.
Absolutely.
Do you think, like, I always had friends, and my friends always loved Alex and their friends and their kids. I mean, remember one party? My friend Sharon's daughter, Laura, danced with Alex. They won the dance contest at the party. Maybe that helped. I mean, everybody embraced him, but, I don't know. I don't know what comes first, just.
Oh, he is a good dancer. I've danced with Alex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a good dancer.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that Alex, the thing about Alex is that he just wanted to be supported by people. So it really wasn't hard to fall in love with him because if you showed him that empathy, he gave it back to you in droves. And so I think that, yeah, it was a lot of our friends recognized that immediately.
Friends really liked him a lot.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true that they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sandy, do you recall any point in your parenting journey where you felt like you needed to involve Elliot in Alex's planning or Alex's, or did it just come natural for you?
Well, we talked a lot. I mean, Elliot's, their dad traveled a lot, so we were, it was us a lot. But, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I will say that I remember you, me, and Alex took a lot of trips together. And so
We did.
I remember, if it's the three of us, then I obviously have to play a role in, making sure Alex is supported and taken care of. So that was a big part of it.
Yeah, we would go to Mackinac, the three of us, like every fall, like right
Yeah.
after Labor Day.
Right.
And it was and all like what Alex wants. We did a private horse tour because he, that would be best for him. And we did, although one time we couldn't get the private horse tour and the guide was, Alex thought he was funny and we didn't. So, we probably didn't get the private one.
I feel like there's more to that story. Alex thought it was funny, but we did it.
Yeah. But even before that, I remember like when we were younger, like we would go to Wisconsin to visit your sister. We went to Branson with your family. And we were just like, even these like long car rides.
Yeah.
It was the three of us. And we just had, obviously, Alex required support. So it couldn't just be you. Like I obviously had to help in some ways.
Right.
Well, when we embrace our family system, at some point it just becomes, this is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, and looking back, is there anything that, Elliot, that you can think of that you wouldn't have it any other way?
Well, so I think that the Mackinac trips were really special because we kind of got in a routine of like everything that we would do because we knew the restaurants that had the food Alex liked and we knew the things he liked to do. And so it kind of just became like the tradition every fall that, we would go to this restaurant and we would go here. And I think those memories are very special.
What about you, Sandy? Is there anything looking back on it that you just, you don't even think challenge? You think, this is how it should be. I wouldn't want it to be any other way.
Well, other than the struggles he had, I mean, he was a fun guy. I mean, like our trips together, and I don't know, you just like learn to accept, like we would go to, I think it was when we'd go to Wisconsin, visit your aunt. And there was a macaroni grill, and he loved the macaroni grill. They closed the macaroni grill. And I'm like, going to my sister, I don't know if we could ever go back there. We'd have to go a different route. But
Yeah.
I mean, you just like learn to, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
Adapt.
Yeah.
yeah,
But there's growth when having to learn to adapt, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely makes you more resilient. It makes you realize that like you can't really, there's a lot of things you can't get flustered by. And you kind of just have to like adapt to the situation that you have because you realize that like, I don't know, wishing it was another way isn't going to make anything better.
So do you feel like building up that internal tolerance has kind of served you positively in other aspects of your life? I mean, as an adult.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've traveled over the world and, I've traveled with friends and, a lot of times on these trips, things don't go well. We miss a flight. I mean, you miss a flight, you get a flat tire. I mean, things happen. And, some people have just a total meltdown. And then you're just kind of like, all right, well, what do we got? What do we have to do? Like, let's just figure it out. You build sort of an internal mechanism for understanding what is truly a disaster and a catastrophe and what is just kind of a bump in the road that you're like, yeah, but we can like figure this out.
I remember taking Alex somewhere. We would take Alex somewhere and didn't go there. We'd always go, well, that was a good idea. Just
Yeah.
I mean,
Live and learn.
Yeah.
Learn. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So to your point, I think,
It sounds like Alex had as much to offer you as a little brother. He was your little brother, right?
Right.
Yeah. As a little brother, he had as much to offer you in terms of helping you grow into the amazing young man that you are, as you did him. So it's very reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
So, Elliot, there's a lot of research out there. I mean, I just read this morning that the incident rates of autism is 1 in 31 today as we speak. And, there's lots of different ideas about how it is being the sibling of an individual with autism, how family units, should be. And what has been helpful to you from all the literature across the years?
I mean, I think you have to take the literature with a grain of salt. Like, I think that there's a lot of good literature out there. And I think that as far as the literature increases awareness of the rising rates of autism, I think it's helpful. Now, I think that inherently what research tries to do is distill things down into kind of a crisp result or insight. And I think that's helpful. But I think that also just naturally runs counterintuitive to the fact that autism is a spectrum and everything is a little bit different. So from the point of view that the research kind of gave me some great insight about autism, I think it helped open my understanding as to what different versions of autism can look like and the fact it is a spectrum. But I don't think there's anything in particular that I would look back and say that this helped me understand Alex better.
One of the challenges within families is the breakdown in communication because people with autism have a very different communication style. How was it that you and Alex were able to develop such a tight bond with each other?
So I think that I spent a lot of time with him. I think that he recognized that. So I think, for instance, during COVID, I came back to Michigan and spent time with him here, spent time with him in Cleveland with my dad. He was, I think he just recognized that I was not going anywhere. I remember hearing from my mom that when I first went off to college, he kind of got upset that I was gone and then came back for a few days and then left again. And so I think that was a little bit like, well, is he here? Is he not? But then I think when I was able to come back for like a few weeks at a time or these longer stretches, it meant a lot to him because it was like, Elliot's not going anywhere.
So he actually, I'd say Elliot's coming home, and I think he was confused. Like, so eventually he said, Elliot's coming home to 2855, 2855 Antigo.
So you meant a lot to him, but the fact that he was anticipating you coming back, that meant a lot to you. It's kind of like that moment when he wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, "Hey, I want spaghetti."
Right.
And you're like, "Well, of course I'm going to make you spaghetti." I mean, in that moment, you must have felt like, I am one of his go-tos. I am
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
value in his life.
Right. Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us for the third episode of our Alex AFF Action for Autism podcast. Please visit www.alexaff.org to stay up to date on all upcoming events. And please check out the other episodes of our podcast. You can also find us on social media on Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us.